Aloha everyone! Welcome to the 7th episode of Quilt Cabana Corner. I'm Sandy Caldwell, and today I have a few good things in store for you. First off, as you can notice, we're going a little Hawaiian, and that's because I just finished reading the book by Alan Brennert called Honolulu. And I've also read his book called Molokai, and I wanted to share with you these books because I think that they're fantastic reads, especially for the summer. And I'm also going to share with you my Hawaiian quilt, which I pieced together after coming back from a trip to Hawaii in 2008. So we'll talk about that, and I also have a magazine for today. It is Fawns and Porter's Love of Quilting, the June-July issue. Nope, I'm sorry, actually I think it's the July-August issue. And on my podcast last week, I talked about the book Doodle Stitching. And I had promised on the podcast that on today's videocast, I would just show a little bit more about the motifs that are included in this book. So, get to it. Go get your coffee, come on back, and let's get quilting Hawaiian style. Okay, so first off, let's talk about the book called Molokai. I don't have a copy of Molokai with me because it's currently being passed around the family and the book clubs. But both of these books are written by Alan Brennert, and they're historical fiction books, and they are fabulous. I'm just going to read you a little bit about the book description of Molokai, and I'll just use my iPad. That's what the cover of the book looks like. And if you've ever been to Hawaii or have been interested in the history of Hawaii, these are really great reads where you learn a little bit about the islands, and you also have a really nice story. Both books have a love story to them. And this one says, this richly imagined novel, set in Hawaii more than a century ago, is an extraordinary epic of little-known time and place, and a deeply moving testament to the resiliency of the human spirit. Now, before I read the full description, for those of you who are not familiar, Molokai was the island whom years ago they would send people who had contracted leprosy. So if you developed any type of a red mark on your skin, they would oftentimes just ship you off to Molokai and pretty much leave you there until the end of your lifetime, unless you could test out of it. So they would have these blood tests or however they did it, and they would check, and if you had a negative result for a certain amount of time, then you were allowed off the island. So here's the description. Rachel Kalama, a spirited 7-year-old Hawaiian girl, dreams of visiting far-off lands like her father, a merchant seaman. Then one day, a rose-colored mark appears on her skin, and those dreams are stolen from her. Taken from her home and family, Rachel is sent to Kalaupapa. I probably just murdered that word, sorry. It's Kalauapapa, the quarantined leprosy settlement on the island of Molokai. Here, her life is supposed to end, but instead she discovers it's only just a beginning. This was such a fantastic story. Rachel goes to the island, and she's just a young girl, and she has to leave her family. And she ends up falling in love over there. And I don't want to tell you too much about it because it's such a fascinating read. So Molokai, and I'm looking at Amazon right now, and it is $10.19 with free Super Saver shipping. And if you have Kindle, it's $9.99. So definitely recommend that one. And then my mother gave me this one to read, which is Honolulu, which is takes place on the island of Oahu, and it's completely unrelated to the first one, so you don't have to read them in any type of order. And originally, what I was hearing was that Molokai was so much better than Honolulu, and so I almost didn't want to read this one, but I'm so happy that I picked it up because it was fantastic. I spent the weekend in Disney with my husband, just my husband and I, and we went from Friday to Monday, which is why I don't have a lot on my cutting board today. In fact, we're going to skip the cutting board section because I didn't have a chance to sew anything. I was busy seeing Mickey Mouse and running around the countries of Epcot and having a fantastic time, but I read pretty much the bulk of this book on the airplane down and back, and I think it was every bit as good as Molokai. So here's the description of this one, and it has to do with picture brides coming from Korea being sent to Hawaii and the pineapple plantation work, stuff like that. So the protagonist in this book, her name is Regret, which is a Korean name because when the Koreans had daughters instead of sons, sometimes they gave them not the nicest of names, like Stormy Day or, in this case, Regret. So when I say Regret, I'm referring to a character. Traveling to Hawaii as a picture bride in 1914, Regret finds not the affluent young husband and chance at education that she has been promised, but a poor, embittered laborer who takes his frustrations out on his new wife. Renaming herself Jin, she makes her own way in the strange land, finding both opportunity and prejudice. With the help of 3 fellow picture brides, Jin prospers along with her adopted city, now growing from a small territorial capital into the great multicultural city it is today. But paradise has its dark side, whether it's the daily struggle for survival in Honolulu's tenements, or a crime that will become the most infamous in the island's history. With its passionate knowledge of a Hawaii far off the tourist track, Honolulu is the spellbinding tale of 4 women in a new world, united by dreams, disappointment, sacrifices, and friendship. And again, this is historical fiction, so things that happen in this book did actually happen. And there's a whole section in the back where you can read exactly how the author researched these things and where the premise for the stories come from. So this was really, really good. And it also has a bit of sewing and quilting in it, which I liked, of course. And if you've ever been to Hawaii and seen some of those beautiful Hawaiian quilts that they make over there and they're done by hand, they're really just gorgeous. So anyway, that's the book review. Molokai and Honolulu, and again, it's Alan Brennert. And I'm going to take you in a minute to see my picture quilt from Hawaii that I made when I came back. But I wanted to show you this as well. This was my first attempt at a Hawaiian quilt when I returned home from my trip. We took the family there in 2008. We're hoping to get there again next year. I went to the Maui Quilt Shop and they had so many beautiful things in there. So I had bought a book on making these Hawaiian type quilts where it's needle turn applique. Not my favorite thing to do, which is why I haven't finished this one, which I just pulled out of the bottom of a project bag, so you're going to have to excuse the wrinkles. But I did pick up a pattern to make a pineapple pillow for my bedroom. And this is as far as I've gotten on it, which doesn't look too bad until you realize that it's only halfway done with the applique. And I kind of stopped working on it because I didn't feel like I was doing a great job on the needle turn applique, although I feel I could do a better job now than when I started this 2 years ago. And also because the fabric is fraying a little bit when I go to turn it under, so I might need some of that, you know, anti-fraying stuff or a little bit of glue or something, Roxanne's glue. So perhaps someday I will finish this. Probably not before I get back over there. And of course, when I'm there, I'll probably find some other project I want to work on that I don't finish. Story of my life, it seems. So, all right. So now I'm going to bring you into the other room to show you a quilt that I made with our photos from Hawaii. And this was on the Quilt Bloggers Festival. It did generate some comments and interest, so I thank you for your comments if you were one of those who sent one in. But for the rest of you, it'll be probably new for you to see, and I will tell you how I made it. So let's head on over. Okay, so this is the Hawaii quilt, and I had purchased the border fabric when I was in Hawaii at the Maui Quilt Shop. And what I wanted to do was somehow commemorate our vacation and take the photos that meant the most to the family or that I found the most interesting to look at and turn them into a souvenir that we could hang in the hallway and show people. So I'm going to try to get a little bit closer so you can see it. I'm sorry about the camera shake, but I don't have the tripod in this room. So these flowers up in the corner were cut from fat quarters of fabric that I purchased. And then this pretty background, a little hard to tell, but it has a lovely Hawaiian print on it, this background fabric. And I did stipple it, so it's one of those quilts that look a little better further away than right up close because really up close, you notice the stippling a whole lot, and in some spots it does go across the girls' faces, which is something to try to avoid, but sometimes you can't. These letters were cut out on my Sizzix machine. I put some fusible paperback fusible on the fabric and then ran it through with the die cut letters. And then these photos were done with this product, Bubble Jet Set 2000, and some Symphony broadcloth. You could use the fabric sheets that you put through the printer that you buy at Joann's, but I think it's like $10 for maybe 6 or 7 sheets. And I had wanted to try doing the process on my own anyway. So I ended up ordering from Nancy's Notions the Bubble Jet set, and I got a pair of gloves, and I bought the fabric, and I bought some freezer paper that was already cut to 8.5 by 9 and 8.5 by 11 or whatever that printer size is, and I did it myself. And oh, and then I wanted it to have sort of a window pane effect, so I added some black bias strip in between. And I think I did a blind hem stitch with invisible thread so that you wouldn't see the stitching on the black. And then on the back, I'm just trying to find here, I also did this, which is a little grid that I printed out and ironed on the back. It says Maui 2008, made by Sandy Caldwell, June 2010, a memoir of our family vacation, and then it tells what each photo is of. So I wanted to read you just a little section from Nancy's Notions on what it says about the Bubble Jet set. So I'll read it while you're having a look at that. It says, make your own printer fabric to use with your computer or photocopier. We recommend starting with Southern Belle broadcloth below, which I did use that. 1 yard is $5.59, by the way. It says 1 yard will give you 12 9.5 by 12 inch sheets. Thoroughly soak your sheets in this clear liquid, hang to dry. Iron the dry sheets onto freezer paper and trim to 8.5 by 11. Fabric remains soft with true color reproduction results. 1 32-ounce bottle of that makes about 45 sheets of printer fabric, and I did find that to be true. And it says how economical for big projects. And it was. That big bottle of Jet Set is $17, $16.95. And then you get a yard of Southern Belle broadcloth, or I noticed that they have broadcloth at Joann's for not that much money, especially with the coupon. So that was it. That was my project. And you know, it was better for me. It took a couple of times, sometimes through the printer, to get the photo the way that I wanted. So I'm glad that I was able to do it on my own. Felt like I was saving a bit of money. So, aloha! Hopefully you can do your own souvenir quilt someday soon. So due to a shortage of time today, I'm actually going to move the magazine review to next week, and I'm also going to move the review of Laura Wazalowski's Stupendous Stitching, which was supposed to be this week. It will now be next week. And I just wanted to show you a few more of the motifs that were in Doodle Stitching as promised on the podcast. In particular, the Woodland Friends, Woodland Animals, and Fairy Tale. Those were so cute. And there's the Russian dolls that I had loved so much on there. Winged Wonders, Weather, Under the Sea. Oh, Sweet Shop was another favorite of mine. And this book does come with the CD, so I'm assuming that you can change the sizes of these. These are projects where you would trace them on your light box onto your project and then embroider them. So, as you can see, some great motifs. I liked the Asian chic one too. Circus had a lot. Celebrations, and here's the Asian chic. So, thanks for joining me this week. I will see you next week. I hope to be a little more productive than I was last week, where I was in Disney for the weekend and get much done. So I'm going to pull out my sashiko and really try to get a start on that, and I'll show it to you next week if I do indeed get to do that. So have a great weekend and a great week, and I will see you next time. Thanks.